What's up guys, welcome to the fourth video in this Android app development series. So in this video we're going to start creation of our user profile page, which will show our profile picture, our posts, and our cover picture. We're also going to create our upload activity, which is where users will go to create posts. Now just for a quick little visual of what we'll be making, in the last video this entire page was blank, so in this video we are going to be making our unique profile page where if you are logged in, when you click on the profile button, you will visit your own unique page instead of just a random blank one. So there I am, there's my name, and we're also going to get the cover background working. And here we go with the upload activity. We'll be making this with this little privacy indicator right here. So that will be in this video. And also don't forget to hit like and subscribe so I can keep the content coming. And please go ahead and watch the first 3 videos if you haven't, because if you haven't, you'll be quite lost here. Anyways, let's go ahead and get started. Now the first thing we're going to do is create a new activity, and it's going to be called upload activity. We select empty, next, and we call this upload activity. Okay, so now we have our activity as well as the activity upload file. So what we're going to be looking to do now is get the code from the res folder, which I have posted down below and you are familiar with if you've seen the last 3 videos. So we'll open that res folder up and simply look in the activity upload.xml. We can go ahead and just copy all this code, visit our activity upload, and paste. Okay, so now we see that we have our screen here. We have an add image button as well as a text view, our profile picture, as well as this friends dropdown. And this will be where we can specify public, private, or friends. Now let's go to our main activity and write the code that will send us from this button here. I don't have the emulator up, but in our activity main button, let's go to that. When we click this button, it's going to send us to the upload activity. So let's go do that right now. Inside of our main activity, we need to come here, and inside of our onCreate method, we are going to write the following code. Okay, so we've written this method here, which is basically just setting an onClick listener for our button, and when it's clicked, we are simply starting the upload activity. Now the next thing to do is go to our upload activity class, and we are going to get our butter knife injections. So how we do that is just simply highlight this activity upload, right click, generate, and generate butter knife injections. Again, we've done this in the first video, so definitely go check them out if you haven't. Now we have our butter knife injections. So inside the upload activity, we are going to write a little bit of code, and let's space this out here. So inside our onCreate method, we're going to do the same things that we've done to our previous class, which is to set the support action bar as our toolbar, and then to set the navigation icon of the toolbar to our back arrow. So we're just going to make a back arrow, as well as give the back arrow the ability to send us back to the main activity. Okay, so what we've done here is just exactly what I said. We just made our arrow, and that will send us back to the main activity. So let's give this a run and see if we got this working. Okay, so we're up and running, and now when we click on this button, we are taken to our screen here. So it looks really good, and we have our privacy selection here. So we're all good with this activity, and our back arrow is working just fine. Now let's go ahead and move over to the next part of our app, which is to finish up the profile activity. So over in our main activity class, we see that when we're starting the profile activity from our main activity, we are passing our user ID. So we need to retrieve that inside of our profile activity. And to do that, we're going to create a string called UID and simply initialize it as 0. Now we're also going to create a current state. Now the current state is going to be basically use cases for when we select a profile. Now there's probably about 6 different ones. So it's basically when we visit a profile, is it our profile? Is it someone else's profile? Are we friends with that person? Are we not friends with that person? And we need to account for all these cases here. So we do not need this right now, this profile URL, but we are just also going to create these variables here. Okay, so now let's go on, and inside of our onCreate method, we're going to write a couple lines of code right below here, but our first line is going to be retrieval of the user ID. And this is how you retrieve a variable from the put extra. So simply we are assigning the user ID that came from our main activity into our user ID variable up here. Now we're actually just going to write a little bit of code for a progress dialog, and basically this is not as important right here, so I'm just going to go ahead and speed this up. But first we have to go up here and simply create a variable of type progress dialog and call this progress dialog. Alright, now we will go back down here and write a little bit of code. Again, this is not as important. Okay, so we're done with that, and it's basically just going to say loading when we're loading up the profile. So now let's get to the good part. So we're going to say if Firebase auth.getInstance, so we're basically just getting the instance of our authentication, and we're going to get the current user. Now we're also going to get their ID and say equals ignore case, equals ignore case, and this is going to be past the user ID. Okay, so if our current user is the one that's selecting the profile essentially, then we are going to say current state is equal to, now let's review our current state cases. So basically what we have here is, I'm just going to copy and paste this. So right here we have, let me tab these out, we have our different states. So like I said before, when we are visiting a profile, we have a bunch of different cases. So the first case will be two people are the friends, this person has sent a friend request, people are unknown, you can send a request, and so on. And the fifth is going to be our own profile. So inside of here, when the user that's selecting the profile is the current user, then we are going to assign the current state equal to 5 because it's going to have to show our own profile. Now, we can also say profile options button, which is the little button on the right side of our profile picture, which you may know or may not know. We are going to set that text to edit profile. Okay, and then also I'm just going to say load profile because we are going to make this method, but not right now. So I'm just going to comment this out. And for our else, we are going to say else load others profile. And now this is also another method that we will create, but let's go ahead and see if this is working right now. Okay, so when we go to our profile, we will see the loading screen essentially infinitely because we never dismissed the progress dialog. So let's just go ahead and comment that out for now and rerun this app. Okay, so now clicking onto our profile page, we see that the edit profile button is here. So we're looking good. Now, if this didn't really make sense of what I was saying about these if statement conditions, let's go over to the main activity and actually just enter in a dummy user ID. So we can get rid of this firebase.instance getUser.userid and just simply replace that with a dummy value here, a dummy string. And basically what's going to happen is when we click on the profile, it's not going to go to our profile, it's going to attempt to go to this profile here. So let's run the app, and it should work out that we won't be able to see the text edit profile, and that's because we won't be clicking on our own profile, we'll be clicking on this profile. So when we click on the button, we go to it and we don't see the edit text, and that's because we're visiting, again, this profile over here. So anyways, we can hit Control Z, undo that, and now we have to add some code, not to our load other profiles activity, but we're going to get that set up in our Atom folder here. So if we go and navigate over to Atom, we have to look inside of our networking app folder, and we can go inside of app and add some code to user.php. So the code that we're going to write here is going to be code that basically allows us to use this method here, load profile. So to do that, we're going to create a method called load own profile, and you will see how that works in just a second. Okay, so this is the code for our load own profile method. Now, we can notice a couple things here. First of all, that we are using the get instead of the post that we used up here. So when you, like I said earlier, I think in the second video, when you use post, to get the variable, you have to use the method get parsed body to retrieve the variable. And when we're using get down here, we simply use get query param, and that's how we get it. Now, let's take a look at the statement. We're selecting all from users where the user ID is equal to the user ID that we passed in. Now this is going to generate our own profile because we also set our state equal to 5, and as we know back in our app, the state when it is equal to 5, that is our own profile. Okay, now to see if this works, we can give this a run in Postman and try to retrieve our data. So open up Postman, and when you do, make sure this is selected to get, and we're going to type localhost networking app and load own profile. Now what we do is put in the params, and we're going to say user ID for this param, and the value here is just going to be one that's in our database. So once you logged in with a Google account, you will get a user ID. You want to copy that and put it into value here, and we can go ahead and hit send. And it looks like we have an error, so let's take a look. We have 2 periods here, and also it looks like we are missing a slash right here. So let's try this again. And we have our user data. So this is all good, and we know that the method's solid, it's getting the data that we need, and now we can go ahead and move on to the next part, which is setting up our user class that will hold all of our variables that are relevant to a user, such as user ID, name, email, profile URL, cover URL, and token. So to do that, all we have to do is go to Postman, and we can change this to JSON and use actually a really cool way to do this and set up our user class in Android. So we'll copy all this code here in JSON format, shrink that down, and we can go to this website, JSON schema to Pojo. Once we get to this website, all we have to do is simply paste this code in here like this, change our package name to whatever our package name is, which you can find right here. One second. The package name is inside of Android manifest.xml, and it's right here, package. So make sure that matches up there. And our class name user, Java, we're going to use JSON because that's what retrofit, or we are using with retrofit, and we can just hit preview. Now this is the magic of this JSON to schema. So all we have to do is simply just copy this code, go back to our app here, and we're going to create another package, here. So new Java package, and this package will be called model. Now inside of this package, we're also going to create a class called user. And we can just get rid of this and paste that there. Now, we got to get rid of this little bit that got picked up, and we are going to have to say example networking app dot model. Okay, so now we're all set with this. Very actually convenient. And now we have to go to our user interface and create the little bit of code that will let us access the load own profile here inside of our PHP. So let's do that right now. We go to our REST, services, and user interface. Now we have to add this little bit of code. Of course, we are using the get this time. I'll enter there. And the type will be user. And we will simply say load own profile. And inside of here, we're going to create a query map. And then we can hit alt enter here. And then this will say map string. String is the parameter. And then we go with params. Okay, hit alt enter there, alt enter. And we're all set to go. So now we are going to be calling our load own profile method. Next, what we have to do is add code to our load profile method in the profile activity, which we have not created yet. So let me get rid of some space here, kind of OCD about it. Go like this. Okay, now we can go and create our load profile method. Okay, so what we've done here, again, is create our load profile method, which will be called right here when we are accessing our own profile. And first, we created an instance of the user interface class. We also created the params, which correspond to the params in our load own profile. And then we are simply passing the user ID as well as the current user's user ID, which we could also use this variable here, UID, when it gets changed right here. But we're just going to use the Firebase.get instance for now. Now we are making a call and then using it asynchronously, getting the response. And further, we're going to make this method show user data. Basically, if we get a response, then we're going to show the user data. If not, then something went wrong. And on failure, something went wrong, message pops up again. So now that we've had our progress dialog.dismiss, we can go up here and just uncomment this code. Okay, so that'll be all set. Now we need to go ahead and import some dependencies that will help us load our profile picture. And then after that, we will create the show user data method. So let's quickly jump over to Atom. And inside of our res folder, we will go to the app level build.gradle, come down to dependencies, look for Picasso. Go ahead and give this a copy. And then we will go to our app file. And right under here, we will paste the Picasso implementation. Now again, if this is a version that is working for me, it may not be for you, unfortunately, and in that case, you will just Google the current Picasso dependency version. So let's sync this up here. And we can head back to our profile activity where we will start creation of our show user data method. So right underneath our load profile, we will start this code here. It looks like our sync went through, by the way. Okay, now that our method is complete, it looks like we still have an error here. We must add a calibrace right here. Oh, and the error went away. So what's happening here is when we're showing the user data, we're essentially getting our profile URL by calling the getProfileURL method inside of the user class that we just created. Next to that, we are doing the cover URL too, and we're going to set the title of the toolbar to our name. Right now, I think it says networking app or something, so we're actually going to set the title as our name. Now, if our profile URL isn't empty, then we are going to load the profile URL into the profile image, and we're simply using the callback from Picasso that we just imported. We're also doing the same for our cover URL. However, our cover URL is empty, and you see that when this method is called, basically this data will be loaded, and we are getting our profile URL, which in my case is right here, and then we are simply loading it into the profile image. Now, the last thing we have to do is uncomment the load profile method right here, and we should be all set to go. So let's give this app a run and see if it works. Okay, we're at our home screen and we go to our profile and we see that it works just fine. There I am, and there's the name. We've got our back button, our edit profile. So this video is getting a little bit long. I'm going to go ahead and divide this into two parts, and in the next part we'll go ahead and finish up our user profile page. So thank you guys for watching. I'll be posting the next video probably within 2 days. Again, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so I can keep the content coming. And again, thank you guys very much for watching.